You know, it's really amazing the number and variety of products that are made or grown in Oklahoma. Mushrooms, shopping carts, school buses, wine, syrup, flight simulators, artificial grass, blue jeans. The list goes on. And the majority of them are small businesses, the lifeblood of an economy. This week, Susan Cadot moderates an in-depth discussion about things we use and consume every day that are made in Oklahoma.
Thank you, Rich. Yes, we are here to discuss all things Oklahoma when it comes to agriculture, and we're joined by an esteemed panel of guests to talk about why this is important, not only for you, for our viewers, but for our Oklahoma agriculture industry. I'd like to introduce to you Jenna Brindley. She is the Made in Oklahoma coordinator. George Lemon, who is president of the Made in Oklahoma Coalition. And Michaela Danker, who is the Agritourism coordinator for the Department of Agriculture, and Scott Bloombaugh, who is the president of the American Farmers and Ranchers and the Oklahoma Farmers Union. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
I'd like to begin by having each of you tell us a little bit about your program and how it serves Oklahoma. And George, I'm going to begin with you.
The Made in Oklahoma Coalition is for the larger food manufacturers in Oklahoma, and we combine our resources to get kind of discounts on media such as TV, radio, billboards, et cetera, and social media. And our benefit to Oklahoma is we employ over 55,000 people and do $3.2 billion in sales collectively.
That's wonderful. Michaela, how about you?
So as the agritourism coordinator for Oklahoma, my job is kind of twofold. I'm on the ground working with Oklahoma producers, these farmers and ranchers that want to bring consumers out to the farm, out to the ranch to experience agriculture. Agritourism is where agriculture meets tourism. So some fun spring things that are coming up. Tulip Farms. We have You Pick Tulip Farms in Oklahoma. You can go pick other flowers as well throughout the summer and fall. And then you can go pet an alpaca or other animals at a petting farm. And one of my favorite activities is You Pick Berry Farms. So all kinds of different activities that families can enjoy, be outside and do right now.
That's wonderful. And we want to talk more about that later because I know there is a lot going on in agritourism. Next, we're going to go over to talk to Scott about what he does for Oklahoma.
Well, as president of American Farmers and Ranchers and Oklahoma Farmers Union, we're the second largest farm organization in Oklahoma, and we are the oldest farm organization in Oklahoma, about 117 years here, even before statehood. And we have a new program out that we're administrating, the Oklahoma Certified Beef Association. And we're excited that we have a new law on the books to allow us to do that. So that's what I'm going to talk about.
All right. And Jenna, I know you know George. You all work in the same area. What do you do?
I do. We say 3 tiers to the Made in Oklahoma program, I guess, if you will. And mine is the base level. So we welcome all types of products into the program, food, beverage, and then also products for your pets, your livestock, lawn and garden, skin and healthcare. So your soaps, candle makers, all of those are welcome into our program. And we have over 500 producers, so a vast variety. And we really focus on just economic development from them. So we are funded by the state, and we use those resources to market our companies, to market our small businesses. We also just did a rebrand and launched an e-commerce portion of our website, which we're really excited about. So now you can go to our website, madeinoklahoma.net, and shop all those products. And we all know how shopping online is these days. So I definitely recommend checking it out.
And George, you have I've been to something that you have every year where Made in Oklahoma producers are there and you get to see all of the products that are made in Oklahoma. There are a lot, correct?
Yes, we have 80 members, and once a year, excluding last year, we have a Made in Oklahoma Expo where all of our members set up tables, 8-foot tables, and then we invite the whole trade. So all of the retail people, all the wholesale people, all the universities, hospitals come to that show. And this year's show is Wednesday, August 3rd.
Okay, so it's back on.
We're going to have it this year. Maybe maybe all wearing masks and very few people, but we're going to have it.
Now, the general public can't attend, though. It's for those in the trade.
Just for the trade.
Scott, I do want to talk to you about the ODBA. Can you first explain what that is?
Sure. The Oklahoma Certified Beef Act was legislation that was passed this last session during the pandemic. And what it does is it defines Oklahoma certified beef as cattle that are bred, born, raised, and processed or slaughtered in the state of Oklahoma are then eligible to be Oklahoma certified beef. So it's a little bit different than the Made in Oklahoma program, but it is very similar. So what we're trying to do is be able to, for the farmer and rancher to be able to retail their product to consumers directly, sell to some of our state's restaurants, our supermarkets in the state, and keep more of the retail food dollar right here in rural Oklahoma in our producers' pockets, and instead of it going overseas or in some big corporation out of state, those dollars stay right here, and they help build our economy. We're also seeing a rebirth of the small mom and pop processing plants throughout the state, really creating jobs in rural communities. So we're really excited about the program.
Was the ODBA put together as a result of trade issues, recent trade issues, or is this something that's been in the works for a while?
Well, really, the pandemic, I think, brought it to the consumer's attention. So last spring, we saw, supermarket shelves empty with meat products throughout the nation. They couldn't get their hands on meat because of the major processors in the country. They had virus, in the workers, and those plants were either shut down or slowed down. And it created a huge backlog of animals to be processed. And we've neglected our small mom and pop processors and our regional size processors for about 4 decades now. Yeah. And so this really puts an emphasis back on local food production being consumed locally. Or at least within the state borders. And so we were able to serve the governor the first Oklahoma certified beef steak on top of the Devon Tower just a few weeks ago. And that's the only 4-star diamond restaurant in Oklahoma. So we're off to a great start with the program.
How do you know it's born and the beef is raised here in Oklahoma?
So we have a third-party verification system that we use, an affidavit system. So the farmer and rancher that did each one of those processes, bred, born, raised, and processed, will have a third party verify that is true statement, and then the producer, the rancher himself, verifies that in a sworn statement. And then whoever the processor is in the state will also sign off on that. So our association, we keep all the records of all of that, can do audits and police that to have integrity to the program, so the consumer can really be confident that they're buying an Oklahoma product raised and produced and processed by Oklahomans.
Michaela, we're coming to you to talk agritourism. I know this is something that's popular not only in Oklahoma, but across the nation, and there is so much to do. I've been to Oklahoma vineyards. We can go, I don't know if cheese is agritourism, but we can discuss Watonga. But you've got a lot of exciting things going on with trails. What are trails?
Trails are a list of probably like businesses that are next to each other. So right now we have currently the Oklahoma Wine Trails, and these are different trails that you can go regionally in Oklahoma and hit up 3 or 4 different Oklahoma wineries, and you're all going to be in the same area at once. We also have Oklahoma's Jelly Making Trail, and these are all of the berry farms or places that you can pick your own jelly making ingredients. So go out to a peach farm, go out to a blackberry, blueberry, strawberry farm, and you can pick your own jelly making ingredients. I do have some exciting news that we are in the works right now. We are working on the Oklahoma Craft Beer Trail, hoping to be launching that this summer and working with all of these breweries and the Oklahoma craft beer industry.
I think George just sat up a little bit straighter when you said that.
I like that idea.
If I'm not
It's going to be fun.
It is interesting. People want to know, and I think the more that the general population understands where their food comes from, the bigger appreciation they have. Is that an underlying issue for agritourism, Michaela, is to create more of a bond between consumers and those who are providing the food they consume?
I think that is exactly what agritourism was designed to do, was connect the producer with the consumer. The consumer is able to step out on the farm and see how a product is raised or grown. And they get to experience that themselves and see the hard work that the farmer and rancher is putting into their product. It's an educational component as well. So, and with COVID this year, we saw an uptick in the amount of consumers that were wanting to shop local, wanting to get their kids outside and experience maybe what grandma and grandpa did. That they're not used to anymore. They're living in the city. And so being able to get outside, being able to experience fresh air and shop local and support their neighbors was a big hit this year. And we're hoping that we're just able to continue that in 2021.
Well, keep us posted when you get a cattle drive on the agritourism, a mini cattle drive. That would be a lot of fun. Few injuries, which sign a waiver, but yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. Scott, I do want to come back to you quickly. What is the status of the beef industry in Oklahoma right now?
Well, I would say very much so. With the pandemic, consumers had to go elsewhere to buy their meat because of the shortages that we saw last April, and the counters empty in many cases. And they got to buy the local meat, and they've rediscovered that they could buy that beef from a local farmer or rancher and have it processed in one of their local communities. And they love the product. And many times the first time they have ever had locally and processed beef. And so they love the quality and they're kind of hooked on it. And now that's where they want to buy it, is directly from the farmer and rancher.
And George and Jenna, I want to come back to you. George, you said, I think there were 80 made in Oklahoma products. Is that all of them, or are there more still to be gathered into the fold?
Well, we started with 6 20 years ago, and we just brought 5 on during the pandemic. We brought 10 on, but we just brought 5 new members on because of the pandemic. I have not even met these people yet. We did it all through Zoom. So yeah, there's more out there. We've got more interviews lined up.
And I don't know, George, if you want to answer this or Jenna answer this, but how are made in Oklahoma products doing through this last year of the pandemic? Have they seen a decrease in sales or a higher demand?
I think it depends on the product and honestly the size of the business. A lot of our smaller companies, they hurt a lot. And a lot of our companies in our program too, maybe this is their side hustle and they just couldn't meet orders. They didn't have the funds to do that. But of course, everyone needs to eat, right? So in the coalition, there's always going to be a demand for those products. George, I'll let you speak to getting them on grocery store shelves and what that was like for you.
Well, yeah, George, and it's important to support local businesses.
That's correct. To say what Jenna said, we kind of had the same thing. The larger manufacturers had record sales because of the demand is just through the roof. I mean, it's unbelievable. About 20 of our members have their products co-packed, which means somebody else makes it for them. And those co-packers shut down. So they didn't even have product to sell for probably 4 or 5 months. So they're still struggling, but we had nothing going on. So we pooled our resources and put out a commercial just showing that the Made in Oklahoma companies were still making food to put on the shelf to feed Oklahomans.
I know there's a lot more information that viewers can get from your websites. I'm going to go around, let each of you share your website for consumers to kind of check in and see how they can participate. George, do you want to go first?
Yes, the Made in Oklahoma Coalition is very simple. MadeInOklahomaCoalition.com.
All right, Michaela, agritourism.
You can find all fun activities at OklahomaAgritourism.com. We also have Facebook and Instagram. You can find us on social media as well.
And Scott.
Go to afr.coop.com and you can find all of our programs right there, including the Oklahoma Certified Beef Program.
Wonderful. Jenna, did George get it right?
Well, we're actually separate. We have two separate websites. So check out the coalition for them and visit www.madeinoklahoma.net for ours. You can find a complete list. All of our producers are listed there, retailers across the state who also carry Made in Oklahoma products if you want to get out and shop, and of course our e-commerce page. So you can shop online of all different types of Made in Oklahoma products at madeinoklahoma.net.
That's exciting. I'm going to be checking that out. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us and for everything you do to keep our agriculture industry up and running in Oklahoma.
Thank you.
Thank you.